the muscular system. Like skeletal, we're going to learn all about how it works and the general structure in lecture, but specific muscles we're going to learn in lab. I can give you a little bit of an intro with this cartoon because while exaggerated, all of these muscles are accurately drawn. You've got pectoralis major, deltoid, biceps brachii. This washboard abs is something called the rectus abdominis. And he's even put in these little structures on the sides for something called the serratus anterior. Now, muscles are the organs of the muscular system. The functions are movement's the big one. They also maintain your posture, small contractions to help keep you in position, and create heat. The chapter also has a brief look at smooth and cardiac muscle. For any given muscle, there's the same basic structure, and then it'll be the shape and size that varies. We're going to look at external connective tissue of a muscle, the organization of the muscle fibers and the connective tissue within the muscle, and then the structure of the fibers themselves, which are the cells. So here's a muscle. It is covered with connective tissue called a fascia. I'm going to draw this cut. I'm going to cut this muscle later as well. Sometimes you can see the fascia on meat. It's especially noticeable with chicken because you've got smaller muscles and you can see the whole muscle. And you know when there's like this tough sheet over the muscle, that's the fascia. What the fascia does is both separate the muscles from each other so that if one's contracting and the other's not, they don't rub against each other. But it also holds them in place so they don't shift around too much in your limb or wherever they are. The fascia blends into the connective tissues that connect the muscle. A tendon is a cord that attaches muscle usually to bone. There are some cases where a muscle attaches to something else like another muscle or skin. This is especially in the face for muscles of expression. Some muscles have a sheet called an aponeurosis that sometimes it's an aponeurosis to connect to a bone if it's wide and flat instead of a cord. But we especially use aponeurosis when it's connecting to another muscle. If I go back to this picture, here in the abs, you've got these little sections of muscle, and all that white in between is aponeurosis, connecting those portions of muscle together. And that's what gives the so-called six-pack if somebody's really toned. The reason we call it aponeurosis, what's neuro? Nerve. Sounds like a weird term for something in muscles. I think where that comes from is the one on the scalp. There's this muscle in front that raises your eyebrows. There's another little muscle back here, and this whole sheet of connective tissue that joins them together rather than connecting to the skull. It's above your brain, aponeurosis. I'm pretty sure that's where the name comes from. Inside the muscle, there's a repeating pattern of circles within circles. If I cut this muscle, so this is our whole muscle. Within it are bundles called fascicles. Those are what give us the texture in a piece of meat. A fascicle, if we extend one, is made up of a whole bunch of muscle fibers or cells. The cells are long and thin. They actually run the whole length of a muscle. That's why we call them fibers. And fascicle just means bundle. The connective tissue within the muscle, here it's woven together around the muscle fibers, but it's still found in several layers. The outer layer is the epimysium. And unlike a fascia, the epimysium can't come off of the muscle. Around each fascicle, and weaving into the epimysium, is perimysium. And then within the fascicle, around each fiber, is endomysium. So we have endo inside, peri around, but it's around each fascicle, not around the whole muscle. And then epi, which is on the whole muscle. Okay. But again, it's woven in, and then the fascia is outside that. We still have further circles inside the fibers. If we expand out a fiber, now this is a cell, so the surface of the fiber is a cell membrane. There are structures within it called myofibrils. Myo means muscle, like we had mice, muscle in the connective tissues. A myofibril is a bundle of filaments, which is basically cytoskeleton, but they have very important intermediate filaments in them and a specified structure of those filaments. Those are myofilaments. There's thick ones and thin ones. These are the smallest level of the pattern, where you take a muscle, you zoom in on a circle, you see more circles. The filaments are the smallest you get. And we'll take a closer look at the filaments, what proteins they're made of, and how they fit together next week. For today, we'll just finish up with this overview of the muscle structure. So we've got the whole muscle with a tendon attaching it to the bone, fascicles within it, surrounded by perimysium, epimysium around the whole muscle. Here's one fascicle, so each of these is a fiber with endomysium around them. And then here, this gray is the cell membrane. We can see portions of some organelles. These are each myofibrils, and then the little purple and blue are the myofilaments. So on this flow chart, we go from large to small. We have muscle, fascicle, fiber, myofibril, myofilament. Questions on muscle structure? All right, so we'll call it here. Pick up with sarcomere next.